Hi everyone, I'm Will Brown and welcome to the WPQuickies series, bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. And this lunchtime WPQuickies, I'm going to be talking about Cloudflare and how to set Cloudflare up on your WordPress website for speed and security. So thanks for taking the time to join me on this lockdown Sydney afternoon. Yes, we've got another week of lockdowns. Thank you very much. So just trying to get through it as best as we can. Before we start, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that little bell as well if you're watching on YouTube, and give me a big thumbs up on Facebook as well. So drop me a note in the comments. Let me know who you are and where you're from. We've got a few people who have jumped in already. So I've got The Maze from sunny Chatswood. We've got On Top. It says, "G'day, Will and team." Well, there's nobody else here, just me. But thanks very much. Yep, greetings from lockdown Sydney. Gerald says, "Hi, Will, and looking forward to this one." Now, this is a good topic, Cloudflare. It's actually been submitted by quite a few people. So I've had quite a few topic suggestions about Cloudflare, so that is fantastic. Alex says, "Hi," and so does Paul. And we've got Jean tuned in from the Central Coast. And Geraldine is Oakdale. I hope that's pronounced properly. And Jonathan's in Gosford, as well as Michael is in Washington, hey, in the USA. Greetings, Michael. Thanks very much for spending your time with me. Okay, we are going to jump in because we've got a little bit to cover, not too much, but a little bit to cover. So I just want to keep going. So if you've got some questions, if you drop them into the comments down below, try and use hashtag ask just so I can scroll through and see what questions they are. Ask them throughout, or you can wait until the end. We've got a Q&A at the end as well. And don't worry about any links and stuff. What I do is after the presentation, I gather all the links that I make throughout the presentation and I'll pop them down underneath the comments in the video below. So you'll get all the links and stuff to link to the presentation as well afterwards. Okay, so let's get into it. Cloudflare. What is Cloudflare? What is a CDN? Well, Cloudflare, it is the most popular and free content delivery network used at the moment. So it has a vast amount of distributed servers in different countries. This is what makes up the content delivery network. And what they do is they store a static copy of pages that people have already visited, and it stores them in all these servers distributed all the way through the planet. And the idea is that when someone is looking at your website, the content's going to be delivered from the server closest to them. And that's going to really increase your speed or the perceived speed of your website. So if your website is located in Sydney and you've got people in the UK looking at your website, then the CDN's server, and probably based in London somewhere, is going to be serving that content to them if it's already in that delivery network. So you're going to have a real vast speed increase if you're looking at using this CDN. And the free service is just super usable. You don't have to sign up for the pro version at all. The free service is really, really, really good. But on top of the CDN part of it as well, now Cloudflare also has a built-in website firewall and distributed proxy service. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But basically, it monitors all your incoming traffic to your website, and it blocks suspicious traffic as well, even before it reaches your server. So at present, I get a lot of, when I do my security talk, I get a lot of people asking about denial of service or distributed denial of service attacks, and what can they do to prevent that? Well, there's only one way of doing that, and that's to use a CDN network. And what happens is, when someone's decided to attack your website, what they're really doing is they are attacking the Cloudflare CDN network. And Cloudflare will balance off all the different servers. So if one server is getting attacked, then they'll offload all the stuff to the other server through the distributed network. And so people are still going to get at your content, and that's really, really good for that. Another thing that Cloudflare does is it uses a proxy service. So it actually hides your IP address. And I think I've got a slide to show that later on. Okay, so I've got let's see, we've got a question straight away from The Maze. So running Cloudflare for many years, that's good. Occasionally a post is updated and the change takes yonks to propagate, especially when changing an embedded file from the media library. How to force? We don't really force an update to Cloudflare because it's a caching service. What we would do is, if we're finding that you've made an update, and sometimes this happens when you update a theme, when you update a plugin, especially for dynamic pages. What can happen is that cached version, it doesn't get refreshed quickly enough for you. The only real way you can do that is to clear the Cloudflare cache. And I've got a slide later on in this, but essentially you can zap everything, or you can zap particular URLs as well. So if you find a particular page is being cached in an old version, you can go log into your Cloudflare account and then click on the clear cache and then go into that particular URL and just zap that. And that should then force Cloudflare to go back and grab the stuff back off your website and then store it in its CDN and populate that around. So there isn't really any way for you to tell Cloudflare to re-look at your website or repopulate something or push it out. It's all done automatically, but you can certainly control the cache for that. No worries, excellent question. Okay, so some benefits of running your WordPress through Cloudflare. Well, the biggest benefit is going to be speed. So as I've talked about, your static bits of your website are cached in all the distributed servers. So people looking at your website are going to get a cached copy from a server closer to them, rather than having to wait for it to go all the way to your actual web server and bring it back as well. So the CDN is going to deliver cached content to your website. So your visitors are going to see it's going to be quicker than a normal request from a regular pulling off the web server. So this is going to increase your engagement, your visitor engagement. It's going to boost your position in the search engine results as well, because Google is going to perceive that as more engagement is better for your website. Other benefits include increased security, access to a free SSL certificate as well if you don't already have one or if you're having to pay for one, and a wide range of apps that you can run on top of your website through Cloudflare. And I've got a few examples of those later on in the slides. So using CDN, it's also actually going to reduce the physical amount of resources that your web server needs. And the fewer resources your website needs, that means the more visitors it can handle per session. So that's a good thing. So really kind of tick, 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 tick. Apart from a few issues that you might have, the maze that he found with caching, it doesn't happen all the time. I've been using Cloudflare for about 8 years, and I've not had very many issues at all. It just runs in automatic mode for that, so I think it's great. Okay, so how do you install Cloudflare on your WordPress website? Now you have to register with Cloudflare. I'm not going to cover registering because it's fairly simple. You put an email address and a password, and that's it done. So I'm assuming you've already registered for a free account. If not, go and do this now and then come back to this tutorial. But basically, after you've logged in to your Cloudflare account, you're going to be told that you don't have any websites currently added to Cloudflare. So go ahead and click on that Add Site button, and then put in the URL of your website for that. And then what Cloudflare is going to do is it's going to pop up this, it's going to check to make sure that's a valid URL. Then it's going to pop up this little screen here, and that's basically all the available packages that Cloudflare has. And you can have a look through these, and there's no reason why, if you want some extra benefits, then you can certainly go ahead and pay for some of those. And some of the, you're going to get basically more support from them for that. Yeah, there's another couple of higher levels for your website. Things like SLAs come into business as well when you start paying the business one. And for those, but essentially what we're going to do today is right at the bottom, it's got a free version. So free $0, and that's the one we're going to use today. So go ahead and click that free plan. And then once you have set up, it's going to basically check and make sure that your website is there. And then the next step is it's going to scan your DNS files. Okay. So what happens here is once you've clicked on the free plan, it goes away. It has a look at your DNS, so your domain name server settings, and it's going to come back and it's going to list all the IP records, all the domain records that it can find for those. Now here, so I ran my website again through a different account just so I get all these set up pages. But again, it's found these records from my DNS, so that's zeropointdevelopment.com. So it's got one A record, and the A record, they point to the IP address of web servers. So I've got rid of my IP address here for those. And then it's got a whole bunch of MX. Those are mail records, and that's from my Google Workspace account. Now, by default, Cloudflare is going to proxy all your A records. Okay, so what that means is Cloudflare is going to hide your actual web server IP address. It's going to mask it behind one of their proxy machines. And that helps protect your web server from a direct attacks. So that's people aiming bot networks directly at your web server, slowing it down, distributed denial of service, all that sort of stuff. So what they do is, rather than your actual IP address, they run it through this proxy. So if anyone is going to try and attack your web server directly, they're not going to find the IP. It's going to hit the Cloudflare proxy server first, and that's the one they're going to target. So that means that your machine resources are still going to be running. It's going to be protected, and it's a really, really great security feature for those. Now, you can choose to remove proxies for those A records and bypass them completely. It might sound a bit of a crazy thing to do, but why you might want to do this? Well, some people might have other web services running on their web account that actually needs the IP address to work. So we're talking about maybe third-party IP, third-party API services here that might expose different parts of data on your website, maybe different parts of maybe you've got a different service running that pulls data from something and pushes it to another one. And you might not want to proxy those because that might screw up a little bit with the API services. So you do have an option to unproxy those and just expose the raw IP address if you've got different web servers and sites running on the same hosting account. But for most people, then I would just say leave it as proxies. That's going to give you additional services. Does Cloudflare handle redirects to add-on domains? No, it doesn't. So you need to do that within your web account for those. Great question, David. Okay, changing name servers. So the next part, so it's got your DNS settings. It's got all those records. You basically verify that they're all good. And then the next step is you have to actually change your name server to Cloudflare. Now, name servers, if you don't really know what those are, quick 101 on those. Name servers are lookup servers that translate the easy-to-read domain name to an IP address of the actual web server, the server that's trying to communicate. So to change your name server, you're going to need to log into your domain registrar. Now, this is the company that you purchase your domain name through, or the one you transferred it to get a better renewal price. So domain registrars, they can be separate from your web hosting company, so it doesn't need to be the same thing. So you basically need to be able to log into where you bought the domain, where your domain name is. That's the domain name registrar, so you can then edit the files and change these name servers. And Cloudflare puts up these two different name servers. So it's actually detected the ones that I have just now, dns1.registrar.servers.com, and it's telling you to change those to these two Cloudflare name servers. And they could be different depending on which the time that you use it. So Cloudflare uses quite a lot of different name servers for that. But essentially, follow those instructions on that screen. And once that's done, then it could take up to 24 hours as well for this. But once it's done, come back to Cloudflare and click on the Done to check the name servers button. Now, here's a bit of a tip. So when you're going through this process and when you've logged into your domain registrar to go and update those name servers, before you do that, the best thing to do is have a look at all your different A records, and there's a column called TTL, or time to live. And that basically tells the name server how long to cache these DNS records for. Now, it really depends. Domain registrars, they set up all these records for different values. And you could have a low value or you could have a high value there. It's measured in seconds. But essentially, what you want to do, try and do, is lower the TTL to as low as the domain registrar will account for before you change the name servers. Because if your TTL, if your time to live, and the one in the example here is 3,600 seconds, which is 1 hour, so that's not too bad. But it could be up to 24 hours or 48 hours. I've seen that in some domain registrars and some web hosting companies. And what that means is if your TTL is really, really high, then when you're changing your name server, then that's not going to refresh all those records. It's not going to make that update until that high value. So you could be sitting there waiting for 2 days before those records are then recached with the new name server. So make sure you adjust your TTL. down to the lowest it can. Go back to Cloudflare, say, yes, I've changed the name server. It's going to pick up those records and then replicate that through the network, and then make sure afterwards you come back to your domain registrar, go back into your TTL and just change them to the value that they were set to initially, because you don't want them being cached all the time. If you lower them really down, it's going to mean your domain is going to be cached. It's going to be pinging your domain all the time, and you don't want it to be doing that. So you want to set it back to the original levels, or something like an hour or even a day, if you want to. So there's a little tip. Have a look at your TTL records before you go changing name servers. But once that's all done, you will get access to Cloudflare. That means that now, when people are doing a DNS resolution, so when the servers are looking up your domain name, so 0.development.com, it's going to go to Cloudflare first, and so not your domain register, so Cloudflare first, and then it's going to use the Cloudflare DNS name servers to resolve your IP addresses from that. So here, when that's done, you're going to see a little dashboard with some analytics on those, and that covers things like unique visitors, the percentage that is cached of your website. So this is my 0.development one here. No, actually, this is a client website. So you can see that 15% of their website is currently cached, and that's not too bad. And the total data served from your Cloudflare account, and the data cached as well. So you can just keep an eye on those. And it's got a little bit about unique visitors and requests as well. But essentially, that's your main dashboard. You can view more analytics as well. So if you want to drill down and see how exactly what's cached and what the top page is, so you can find that. But along the top are all your actions here. So you can see your analytics, your DNS, your SSL, your firewall, speed, caching as well. All those different things along the top are all the kind of access. And there, this is the free version. So it does give you a lot of options under the free version. But what we're going to do today, just to get you set up with WordPress. So we've got your WordPress website now running through the free version of Cloudflare, using its name servers. The first thing you really want to do is go and set up some page rules. And this is where Cloudflare really comes into its power. Now, by setting up rules, you can customize how Cloudflare works on specific pages of your website. And it's especially useful in securing critical pages like your login page or your WP admin dashboard area. And so Cloudflare free account allows you to set up 3 page rules, and if you want to add more, then you need to pay $5 a month for 5 additional rules. And of course, you can add more as you go on, but that's the lowest plan for that. So if you're paying the $5 US per month, then that means you're going to get a total of 8 page rules. So first, you need to click on the page rules option at the top there. So it's a little funnel thing that looks like that I've got the arrow pointed to, and then click on the create page rule. And I'm going to go through a few page rules that you might want to set up for your WordPress website. Okay, so the first one here is bypass the WordPress dashboard area. So we're going to tell Cloudflare not to cache anything when we're logged in to the WordPress admin dashboard area. There's no need to cache all that backend stuff. A lot of it's dynamic. The changes depend on the plugins and themes, so you really don't want any caching off that. So here's the settings. So once you've clicked on that page rule, you're going to enter your domain name, and then /wp-admin/ with an asterisk. And all that means is it means that it's getting all those URLs that are in the WordPress dashboard. Because when you're in the dashboard looking at plugins and settings and things, that the URL /wp-admin always stays the same for that. So we're going to tell it to this rule is going to be for everything that's after the /wps-admin-/. And the settings that we're going to use, they're going to be the security level. We're going to change that to high. So what this does is it challenges suspicious activity in the admin dashboard area, and it can throw up things like CAPTCHAs, like the Google CAPTCHA for that, or it can just ban the IP address for a set amount of times. And you can drill down that more in the security section within Cloudflare. So we're setting the security level to high. We're setting the cache level to bypass. So we're basically telling Cloudflare, don't cache anything that matches these URLs in the dashboard. We're going to disable apps. So these are the Cloudflare apps. So we don't want those to run in the dashboard area because they're mostly just front-end apps. And we're going to disable performance as well. So we don't want to record any performance metrics when people are in the admin dashboard. So that's probably one of the best rules that you can do. It just saves Cloudflare from caching your dashboard, and it saves it from using resources as well by looking at all your activity when you're in there. and it also flags security. The next one here is we're going to tell WordPress to carefully monitor the wp-logging.php. So here's the rule here. That's the domain name / and wp-logging.php, then an asterisk. Now, this what this does is wp-logging.php, and that is your actual login script. So that's the PHP file that runs when you're trying to log into WordPress. And the reason we put a little asterisk there is because sometimes it can have attributes. So question mark, action equals logout, you're logging out, or if you're requesting, if you've forgotten your password or registering. So there's lots of different things can come after that URL. So we're basically telling Cloudflare to everything after that wp-logging.php, then we're going to treat that as a security level of high. And again, that just kicks in the Cloudflare security rules for suspicious activities, hardens your WordPress login a little bit more. Okay, so that's 2 out of your 3 rules for those. Now, if you're running a WooCommerce site, you really should set up some rules to bypass the dynamic pages for things like My Account, checkout and cart as well. And again, these are going to be extra rules, so you're probably going to have to pay your $5 for those, or choose not to use those 2 rules I've just told you about, security and the dashboard. You don't have to put those in. But if you're running a WooCommerce website, then really these are the 3 rules that you should be adding to your WordPress website. So you put in your domain name. So for example, this one's just domainname.com. So replace that with yours and then /myaccount with an asterisk. So that's going to target everything under your account, and then do the same for the cart, and then the same for the checkout as well. You don't need an asterisk after the checkout because there's usually no URL query parameters for that, but you can put an asterisk there if you want to. And here are the settings for each of those pages. You want to disable apps, you want to disable performance, and you want to bypass the cache as well for those. And this is going to be the same if you're running any type of e-commerce plugin, for example, Easy Digital Downloads or MemberPress, some membership websites for those. You basically want to bypass cache for your account, the cart and the checkout pages for those. And you can certainly use those free rules as well if you don't want to pay the additional cost. Cameron asks, you could put all the dynamic WooCommerce pages under one parent page if you add the rule to the parent page, and you could cover all pages with one rule. Yep, that's true. So if you have just the one parent page, then you can use those under the one rule under Cloudflare. So you could do that as well rather than have 3 separate rules. Yep. Good point out, Cameron. Okay, so here's some other useful rules that you might want to use if you're paying for them, or if you're not running a WooCommerce website. So this one here is HTTPS. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger so you can see. So what we're doing is the rule we're putting in is HTTP. So this is not the secure one. So if you're still running HTTP, if you don't have an SSL certificate, or if your web host is asking you to pay for one, which they really shouldn't, but you can use Cloudflare's free HTTPS certificates for those. So what we're doing, we're matching the non-secure HTTP of your website, and we're putting an asterisk before your domain, because that might you might have like www, or you might have courses or any sort of subdomains. So that's getting all the subdomains and then an asterisk afterwards for those. And then we're basically going to say always use HTTPS, and it's going to enforce HTTPS for this rule. But it means if anyone is typing HTTP non-securely for any of your subdomains or your main domain or any other pages after that, then Cloudflare is going to flick that over to an HTTPS and use their own certificate for those. And in the order, we want to make sure that's first. So we make sure this is processed first before any other rules are applied. So this is really, really handy. If you need an SSL certificate, if you want to secure your website, and you don't want to shell out for one that your hosting company is telling you to do, just run through the free Cloudflare and set up this page rule, and you've got their SSL certificate and your website is secure. So that's a good option for those. The next one, if you are using that particular option, you really need to set SSL to full mode. So go back into your Cloudflare dashboard, go up to the SSL/TLS, that's a little padlock at the top, and make sure that your encryption is on full, because you can get some issues if you don't have full. You can have things like too many redirects, and your website kind of gets caught in a loop for that. So make sure it's on full if you're using that SSL particular page rule. Some other things here is you can stop bots from grabbing your email addresses for spam. So if you've got some pages that has your email address exposed, then you can use a page rule called email obfuscation for that. And all it does is it puts a little bit of JavaScript in there that hides your actual email address and just still allows people to click on it and then, you know, go to their email list. So that can be quite handy if you're finding that you're getting a lot of spam emails because you've got email embedded in one of your pages. Okay, so Cloudflare itself, it does offer a dedicated WordPress plugin that can set up and optimize all the different rules that we've been talking about here. And you can find the plugin at that link there. Personally, I don't use this plugin. I prefer to add the rules and change the settings manually. But you know, if you don't want to play around with that, you can certainly install the plugin. But I think one of the great benefits of Cloudflare and using Cloudflare and the apps and stuff is that you're not adding extra plugins to your website. So that's kind of that's something that I don't do. I don't use this this particular plugin. I just do it all manually from the dashboard because it's fairly simple and easy to set up. Okay, so here's a common issue that you get if you're using Cloudflare. And again, I think the Maze asked a question about caching. So a common issue is that sometimes you can find that Cloudflare is serving an old page. And this is especially true, as I said earlier, if you're updating your themes or your plugins, you know, and that's particularly changed the dynamic aspect of your website. So it's really, really easy to clear your cache. So you come into the Cloudflare dashboard, you come up to the caching, and that's the kind of little servers, the two server button there. And then you basically got two options. You can zap everything, so purge everything from the cache and let it rebuild. Or if you click on the custom page, then it asks you for a particular URL path, so you can add as many as you want. So you can clear actually just specific pages. You know, if you're finding maybe one or two pages are getting stuck, then you can just clear them, and that should set up your Cloudflare cache, no problem at all. So it's really, really easy to do. So we're almost finished, but I've got a few extra slides here. And I want to talk about apps. Apps are, so if you see the dashboard before, apps are right second to the end, a little plus sign up there. There's quite a few of them, and some of them are actually really, really useful. And the way that the apps work in Cloudflare is because Cloudflare is pulling some content and caching it in their own servers, then these apps are basically overlaid on your website. So a lot of these apps, you can actually use them to replace plugins. So if you've got a few plugins, you know, does this sort of stuff, you can remove the plugins. It's going to make your website faster because it's loading less stuff, less resources. And you're basically, it's the Cloudflare infrastructure that's using these rather than your website. So the first one here is the cookie consent banner. That has still got a lot of clients back in the UK, and it's mandatory that they have a cookie consent banner. So it's one less plugin to use. I tell them to use this Cloudflare one because it works perfectly. It basically, the great thing about these little apps is you can see them in real time. So you put in the URL of your website and you get to configure them, just basically like the WordPress customizer works, and it overlays to make sure so you can see what it actually looks like on your website. This one's fairly simple. You can put a bit of text in there and you can link out your privacy policy, and they've got like an OK button for that. And that does the job. For all my UK clients, they run it all through Cloudflare. They use this cookie consent, and you can link to privacy policy. It's one less plugin for WordPress to manage as well. So that's really good. That's a big tick for me. I love that one. This one I quite like. It's called Cover Message, and it basically allows you to put a pop-up onto your website for those. And there's 3 different versions of the pop-ups. You can actually do a sign up. So if you want to sign people up to a newsletter or something else, you can have that one. It asks for an email address. This one here is just redirecting them to a page. So you can say things like, this one here is just the default. It says, we've got some amazing new products that we just launched. Check it out. And that can take you to whatever page that you like. Or you can just show a message as well. So you can pop up a message to say, this site's going to be put into maintenance mode, you know, in the next 5 days. You know, I just want to make you aware of that. Or you can say, you know, winter specials, discount, 10% discount on all winter range, you know, for the next couple of months. So this is really, really handy plugin to have. I love it. I use it all the time, just for little announcements on the website. And again, it's one less plugin to have in WordPress, especially if it's something you're not using all that often. There's a few other apps here that I have used in the past. One is a welcome bar, and that puts a bar right at the top or of your website. So if you want to grab attention or just make people aware of something, and you don't want to put that big pop-up, you know, right in the middle, you can put this little welcome bar right at the top, and you can configure it to say anything you like, and you can put links and a button as well. It's really, really good. Social icons as well. You can hover social icons so that people can click through onto your social pages. And again, that's one less plugin that you have to manage. And you can have these site-wide, or you can determine which pages they want to come in on. And the last one I use quite a lot for some of my client websites. So rather than installing, you know, a translation plugin like WPML or Weglot, that requires a whole heap of configuration, a lot of work on their front end. We can use the Google Translate and have that as a little widget that hovers over, and you can position it wherever you want on the website. And you basically just has a drop-down list, and you change it to whatever language you like, and it just translates that page in real time. Now, it's not going to be 100% accurate or as accurate as having an actual translation plugin, but you know, it's like 90% effective, you know, so you can save all that heap of work having to do all that translation yourself. So I love this little thing. So if any of my customers have you know, foreign customers, foreign visitors, then I get them to use this Cloudflare little app called Google Translate, and it saves them a heap of time. So as well as getting security features and the speed features for Cloudflare as well, all these little handy little apps really help you kind of, you know, still do the same sort of stuff you could do with WordPress, but with 1 to maybe like a dozen less plugins as well. So I think that's kind of thumbs up, and it's all under the free version of Cloudflare as well. So I've taken a few questions throughout. If you've got any other questions, pop them down. Otherwise, we kind of run out of time for the half hour. Let's just go to the next ones. So yeah, I'm always looking for suggestions for some more topics. I actually got quite a heap through last week, which was great, but you know, I'm looking for more. So if you got any ideas about what I could cover WordPress-wise in around 30 minutes or less, that would be great. Fill out that form there. And just a shout out for WPAustralia.org. So if you're looking to find out what meetups, online meetups are happening at the moment, then you can find them all from there. And you can also join us on our Slack community. There's a setup button that tells you how to join Slack here, which is lots of channels, meet everyone in the community, and get to strike up conversations with people or ask some of your questions from those. A little shout out for my website owner survival guide. So if you are selling support, WordPress support or hosting, that can help you get a little bit more of recurring revenue coming in. And as always, happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm on Developer Will, Instagram, Will_AU, and Twitter as Developer Will as well. Next week, I'm going to be talking about 2FA, that's two-factor authentication for WordPress. So make sure your logins are super secure with a two-factor authentication device for that. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. So I shall see you next week. Have a really good and safe week. You know, if you're in lockdown, stay inside, and we'll hopefully looking forward to next week when we come out of lockdown in Sydney. But take care, and I'll see you next week for 2FA WordPress logins. Thanks, guys. Bye.